Alright, welcome everybody. In the last video we talked about what it means graphically to be an even or an odd function. But what are the algebraic implications? So let's take a look at this. F of x equals x squared. We know the graph looks like this. And is there a reflection with respect to the y-axis? Of course, right here. There's a nice, beautiful reflection. So here, the idea is graphically we understand it's even because there's a symmetry with the y-axis. But what are the algebraic implications that's happening here? So let's take a look at this. If I go to my calculator and I'm going to put in x squared, x squared, and if I hit graph, what does it look like? It looks like this. But let's see what the table of values are. And how would I do that? I just go to second and I hit graph and I access the table, and this is the table right here. Like when x is 0, your y value, let me zoom in a little bit and let's have it here, right? Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, perfect. Like here, if I am 0, if x is 0, y is 0. If x is 1, y is 1. X is 2, 4, 3, 9. Okay? So what we want to do is there something happening algebraically over here that makes a symmetry with respect to this? So let's take a look. Let's say if my x is 0, my f of x is 0. If my x is 1, I get 1. Here, if I get negative 1, I get 1. If I get 2, it's 4, and negative 2, it's 4. Like, what's the next one? If it's 3, then it's 9. If it's negative 3, it's 9. If it's 4, it's 16. Negative 4, 16. Well, what happens if I have x? Then this has to be x squared. But then what's going to be up here? This is going to be negative x, and this will be x squared. So the idea is that f of x has to equal f of negative x. Okay? And just by saying that right now, you're probably thinking, what on earth are you talking about, Mr. G? This shows that it's even. For example, let f of x be, let x equal, let's say 5, right? If x equals 5, what is f of x? Well, let's see. F of x is equal to x squared. F of 5 is equal to 5 squared, and that's equal to 25. But what's f of negative 5? Well, that's equal to negative 5 squared, and that's also equal to 25. And these two are equal. So this is satisfied. If this is satisfied, we have an even function. Okay? Let's look at the next one. An odd function. We know this is odd because there's a reflection with respect to the origin, and if I put my finger at the center and I turn it up and I rotate it 180 degrees, I have the same graph from the original. So we know this is an odd function, and this is the function f of x equals x cubed. We want to see what the algebraic implications what are they for an odd function? Well, let's take a look here. If I have 0, it's 0. It's 1, 1, 2, 8, negative 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 8. Well, let's take a look. If I have 3, right? If x is 3, then my f of x has to be 27. If it's 4, it's 64. And if you want, you could just check it putting x cubed. Like here, if I were to do y equals, if I were to do x to the third, and I hit second table, it gives me the values, okay? So you could do that with x cubed, and you could graph it whatever you like. So here, if I have 3, it's 27. If it's 4, it's 64. But what happens if I put in negative 3? Well, let's see. What is negative 3 cubed? Well, let's put it into our calculator. And you see, a lot of you forget to put the parentheses. Please don't forget to put parentheses. And then what does it become? It's negative 27. So this is negative 27. And this is negative 4 cubed has to be negative 64. So the idea is, for this proof, if I have negative f of x, it'll equal f of negative x. Okay? This is how I know if it's an odd function. So let's see why. Let x equal 4, for example. Well, what's f of x? F of x is equal to x cubed. F of 4 is equal to 4 cubed, which is equal to 64. So then, how do I figure this out? How do I figure out negative f of 4? Well, this just becomes, what's f of 4 is 64, so it's parentheses negative 64, and that equals negative 64. Now, I want to show that this has to equal this guy over here. So let's see. What's f of negative 4? Well, then that is negative 4 cubed, and that's equal to negative 64, and these two match. Okay? So this is what it means to be an odd function. Here, let's determine algebraically whether a function is even, odd, or neither. So if I take a look at this graph here, this function here, we have f of x equals x squared plus 4. What I want to do is, I want to check if it's even or odd. Remember, if it's even, I better have this. If it's odd, I better have this. So what I want to do first is, let's check if this function is even. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to see if this is satisfied. Here, I want f of x to equal f of negative x. If this is true, then the function is even. So here, what does f of x equal? Right? Let's try and satisfy this. What does f of x equal? It equals x squared plus 4. Now I want to see what f of negative x is. Well, f of negative x is basically whatever I plug in. You see here, I'm plugging in x into this. Here, I'm plugging in negative x into this function. So I'm plugging in negative x squared plus 4. And here, what is negative x squared? This is x squared plus 4. And notice that these two are equal to each other. So our function is even. And that's it. We don't even need to check if it's odd because it's already satisfied that it's even. And if you felt, oh, Mr. G, I felt a little shaky on this, let's just have a quick side note over here. Like, how did I know that negative x squared became positive x squared? Well, let's just take a look at this. If I have 4 squared, what does it equal? Well, this is 16. What's 4 to the 4? What is that, 256? What is 4 to the 6? I don't know what 4 to the 6 is. Let's see. 4 to the 6 is 4,096. So if I have x to the even, that implies it's positive. Okay? So x to the 4th has to just be x to the 4th. Okay? Because if I have some positive number to an even power, it's positive. Well, what about here? What's negative 4 squared? It's 16. And watch what happens into your calculator. Please do not do this mistake anymore. Let's look at this. Common mistake. They say, oh, Mr. G, I got negative 16. You see, look, if you do negative 4 squared, you get negative 16. But that's incorrect. What you need to do is parentheses negative 4 squared. And that's equal to 16. Okay? This, what will this be? This will be 256. And this will be 4,096. So here, if I have a negative value to an even power, it becomes positive. And that's what happens here. Like if I have negative x squared, this is some negative to an even power, it has to be positive. Okay? So here, what's negative x to the 4th? It's just x to the 4th. Here, let's take a look at this. What's 4 to the 3rd? That's 64. What's 4 to the 5? I think that's 1,024. And what's 4 to the 7th? I don't know. What is 4 to the 7th? And that's 16,384. Okay? And what will happen if I have some x to the odd? it'll be positive. So I know my x cubed, this has to just, x to the 3, this just has to be a positive x to the 3. But let's take a look at this. What is negative 4 to the 3? You could put it in your calculator. Let's see, parentheses negative 4 to the 3, and that becomes negative 64. This is negative 1024. And this is negative 16,384. Okay? So if I have some negative number to an odd power, it becomes negative. So what is negative x to the 3? This has to be negative x cubed. Okay? This is a very nice thing to have in your notes, just as a side note. What I'd like you to do is try and see if this is odd, even, or neither. Okay? And what I want us to do is follow this protocol, right? Strategy. Check if it's even, check if it's odd, and if it's not even or odd, then it's neither. Okay? I'll show you this one. Let's see if it's even. Check even. Well, if it's even, then f of x has to equal f of negative x. Sorry, f of negative x. Okay, so let's see. What is f of x? This is my f of x function. Okay? F of x is equal to x cubed minus 2x. All right? Well, what is f of negative x? Well, I'm going to plug in this negative x into this function. Here, I'll just write it again. F of x is equal to x cubed minus 2x. So let's plug this function into here. So this is parentheses negative x minus 2 times negative x. And what do we get? This is negative x cubed plus 2x. And notice that f of negative x does not equal f of x. So this is false, not even. So let's check if it's odd. Hold on one second. It has to be negative f of x on the outside has to equal f of negative x. Well, here we already have f of negative x. What is f of negative x? It's negative x cubed plus 2x. And here we already have f of x. What is f of x? F of x is x cubed minus 2x. So it's x cubed minus 2x. And then what you're doing here is you're just multiplying this whole thing by a negative. So let's see, what's negative times this? It's negative x cubed plus 2x. And look, hey, they're equal to each other. Bam! So they're odd. This is an odd function over here. And algebraically, we can see it. Graphically, let's see what it looks like. Here, y equals x cubed minus 2x. And let's just see what it looks like. Oh, oops, sorry, I messed up. X cubed minus 2x. And let's say graph. And bam, doesn't this, oops, sorry. Doesn't this look like an odd function? Because if I were to take my calculator and put it upside down, I get the same graph. Okay, everybody, what I want you to do is try and finish some of these questions over here, determine if they're odd, even, or neither. I'll see you.